This is a continuation of All Quiet on the Western Front by E.M. Remarque, comprising the first part of Chapter 10. Chapter 10. We have dropped in for a good job. 8 of us have to guard a village that has been abandoned because it is being shelled too heavily. In particular, we have to watch the supply dump as that is not empty yet. We are supposed to provision ourselves from the same store. We are just the right people for that. Kat, Albert, Müller, Chaden, Dietering, our whole gang is there. Hay is dead, though. But we are mighty lucky all the same. All the other squads have had more casualties than we have. We select as a dugout, a reinforced concrete cellar, into which steps lead down from above. The entrance is protected by a separate concrete wall. Now we develop an immense industry. This is an opportunity not only to stretch one's legs, but to stretch one's soul also. We make the best use of such opportunities. The war is too desperate to allow us to be sentimental for long. That is only possible so long as things are not going too badly. After all, we cannot afford to be anything but matter-of-fact. So matter-of-fact indeed, that I often shudder when a thought from the days before the war comes momentarily into my head, but it does not stay long. We have to take things as lightly as we can, so we make the most of every opportunity, and nonsense stands stark and immediate beside horror. It cannot be otherwise. That is how we hearten ourselves. So we zealously set to work to create an idol of eating and sleeping, of course. The floor is first covered with mattresses which we haul in from the houses. Even a soldier's behind likes to sit soft. Only in the middle of the floor is there any clear space. Then we furnish ourselves with blankets and eiderdowns, luxurious soft affairs. There is plenty of everything to be had in the village. Albert and I find a mahogany bed which can be taken to pieces with a sky of blue silk and a lace coverlet. We sweat like monkeys moving it in, but a man cannot let a thing like that slip, and it would certainly be shot to pieces in a day or two. Kat and I do a little patrolling through the houses. In very short time we have collected a dozen eggs and 2 pounds of fairly fresh butter. Suddenly there is a crash in the drawing room, and an iron stove hurtles through the wall past us and on, a yard from us out through the wall behind. 2 holes. It comes from the house opposite where a shell has just landed. The swine, grimaces Kat, and we continue our search. All at once we prick up our ears, hurry across, and suddenly stand petrified. There, running up and down in a little sty, are 2 live sucking pigs. We rub our eyes and look once again to make certain. Yes, they are still there. We seize hold of them, no doubt about it, 2 real young pigs. This will make a grand feed. About 20 yards from our dugout, there is a small house that was used as an officer's billet. In the kitchen is an immense fireplace with 2 ranges, pots, pans, and kettles. Everything. Even to a stack of small chopped wood in an outhouse. A regular cook's paradise. 2 of our fellows have been out in the fields all the morning hunting for potatoes, carrots, and green peas. We are quite uppish and sniff at the tinned stuff in the supply dump. We want fresh vegetables. In the dining room, there are already 2 heads of cauliflower. The sucking pigs are slaughtered. Kat sees to them. We want to make potato cakes to go with the roast, but we cannot find a grater for the potatoes. However, that difficulty is soon got over. With a nail we punch a lot of holes in a pot lid, and there we have a grater. 3 fellows put on thick gloves to protect their fingers against the grater. 2 others peel the potatoes, and the business gets going. Kat takes charge of the sucking pigs, the carrots, the peas, and the cauliflower. He even mixes a white sauce for the cauliflower. I fry the pancakes, 4 at a time. After 10 minutes, I get the knack of tossing the pan so that the pancakes which are done on one side sail up, turn in the air, and are caught again as they come down. The sucking pigs are roasted whole. We all stand round them as before an altar. In the meantime we receive visitors, a couple of wireless men, who are generously invited to the feed. They sit in the living room where there is a piano. One of them plays, the other sings An der Weser. He sings feelingly, but with a rather Saxon accent. All the same, it moves us as we stand at the fireplace preparing the good things. Then we begin to realize we are in for trouble. The observation balloons have spotted the smoke from our chimney, and the shells start to drop on us. They are those damned spraying little daisy cutters that make only a small hole and scatter widely close to the ground. They keep dropping closer and closer all round us. Still, we cannot leave the grub in the lurch. A couple of splinters whiz through the top of the kitchen window. The roast is ready. but frying the pancakes is getting difficult. The explosions come so fast that the splinters strike again and again against the wall of the house and sweep in through the window. Whenever I hear a shell coming, I drop down on one knee with the pan and the pancakes and duck behind the wall of the window. Immediately afterwards, I am up again and going on with the frying. The Saxon stops singing. A fragment has smashed the piano. At last, everything is ready and we organize the transport of it back to the dugout. After the next explosion, 2 men dash across the 50 yards to the dugout with the pots of vegetables. We see them disappear. The next shot. Everyone ducks and then 2 more trot off, each with a big can of finest grade coffee, and reach the dugout before the next explosion. Then Cat and Crop seize the masterpiece. The big dish with the brown, roasted sucking pigs. A screech, a knee bend, and away they race over the 50 yards of open country. I stay to finish my last 4 pancakes. Twice I have to drop to the floor. After all, it means 4 pancakes more, and they are my favorite dish. Then I grab the plate with the great pile of cakes and squeeze myself behind the house door. A hiss, a crash, and I gallop off with the plate clamped against my chest with both hands. I am almost in. There is a rising screech. I bound, I run like a deer, sweep round the wall, fragments clatter against the concrete. I tumble down the cellar steps. My elbows are skinned, but I have not lost a single pancake, nor even upset the plate. At 2 o'clock we start the meal. It lasts till 6. We drink coffee until 6:30, officers' coffee from the supply dump, and smoke officers' cigars and cigarettes, also from the supply dump. Punctually at 6:30 we begin supper. At 10 o'clock we throw the bones of the sucking pigs outside the door. Then there is cognac and rum, also from the blessed supply dump. And once again, long, fat cigars with belly bands. Jaden says that it lacks only one thing: girls from an officer's brothel. Late in the evening we hear mewing. A little gray cat sits in the entrance. We entice it in and give it something to eat, and that wakes up our own appetites once more. Still chewing, we lie down to sleep. But the night is bad. We have eaten too much fat. Fresh baby pig is very griping to the bowels. There is an everlasting coming and going in the dugout. 2, 3 men with their pants down are always sitting about outside and cursing. I have been out 9 times myself. About 4 o'clock in the morning we reach a record. All 11 men, guards and visitors are squatting outside. Burning houses stand out like torches against the night. Shells lumber across and crash down. Munition columns tear along the street. On one side, the supply dump has been ripped open. In spite of all the flying fragments, the drivers of the munition columns pour in like a swarm of bees and pounce on the bread. We let them have their own way. If we said anything, it would only mean a good hiding for us. So we go differently about it. We explain that we are the guard, and so know our way about. We get hold of the tinned stuff and exchange it for things we are short of. What does it matter anyhow? In a while it will all be blown to pieces. For ourselves, we take some chocolate from the depot and eat it in slabs. Cat says it is good for loose bowels. Almost a fortnight passes thus in eating, drinking, and roaming about. No one disturbs us. The village gradually vanishes under the shells, and we lead a charmed life. So long as any part of the supply dump still stands, we don't worry. We desire nothing better than to stay here till the end of the war. Jaden has become so fastidious that he only half smokes his cigars. With his nose in the air, he explains to us that he was brought up that way. And Cat is most cheerful. In the morning, his first call is, "Emile, bring in the caviar and coffee." We put on extraordinary airs. Every man treats the other as his valet, bounces him and gives him orders. There is something itching under my foot. "Crop, my man, catch that louse at once," says Lear, poking out his leg at him like a ballet girl, and Albert drags him up the stairs by the foot. "Jaden!" "What?" "Stand at ease, Jaden, and what's more, don't say what. Say, 'Yes, sir.' Now, Tjaden." Tjaden retorts in the well-known phrase from Goethe's Gotts von Berlichingen, with which he is always free. After 8 more days, we receive orders to go back. The palmy days are over. 2 big motor lorries take us away. They are stacked high with planks. Nevertheless, Albert and I erect on top our 4-poster bed complete with blue silk canopy, mattress, and 2 lace coverlets. and behind it at the head is stowed a bag full of choicest edibles. We often dip into it, and the tough ham sausages, the tins of liver sausages, the conserves, the boxes of cigarettes rejoice our hearts. Each man has a bag to himself. Krop and I have rescued 2 big red armchairs as well. They stand inside the bed, and we sprawl back in them as in a theater box. Above us swells the silken cover like a baldachin. Each man has a long cigar in his mouth, and thus from aloft we survey the scene. Between us stands a parrot cage that we found for the cat. She is coming with us, and lies in the cage before her saucer of meat, and purrs. Slowly, the lorries roll down the road. We sing. Behind us shells are sending up fountains from the now utterly abandoned village. A few days later we are sent to evacuate a village. On the way we meet the fleeing inhabitants trundling their goods and chattels along with them in wheelbarrows, in perambulators, and on their backs. Their figures are bent, their faces full of grief, despair, haste, and resignation. The children hold on to their mothers' hands, and often an older girl leads the little ones who stumble onward and are forever looking back. A few carry miserable-looking dolls. All are silent as they pass us by. We are marching in column. The French certainly will not fire on a town in which there are still inhabitants. But a few minutes later the air screams, the earth heaves, cries ring out. A shell has landed among our rear squad. We scatter and fling ourselves down on the ground, but at that moment I feel the instinctive alertness leave me which hitherto has always made me do unconsciously the right thing under fire. The thought leaps up with a terrible throttling fear. "You are lost!" And the next moment a blow sweeps like a whip over my left leg. I hear Albert cry out. He is beside me. "Quick, up, Albert!" I yell, for we are lying unsheltered in the open field. He staggers up and runs. I keep beside him. We have to get over a hedge. It is higher than we are. Krop seizes a branch. One heave him up by the leg. He cries out. I give him a swing, and he flies over. With one bound, follow him, and fall into a ditch that lies behind the hedge. Our faces are smothered with duckweed and mud, but the cover is good. So we wade in up to our necks. Whenever a shell whistles, we duck our heads under the water. After we have done this a dozen times, I am exhausted. "Let's get away, or I'll fall in and drown," groans Albert. "Where has it got you?" I ask him. "In the knee, I think." "Can you run?" "I think." "Then out!" We make for the ditch beside the road, and stooping, run along it. The shelling follows us. The road leads towards the munition dump. If that goes up, there won't be so much as a boot lace left of us. So we change our plan and run diagonally across country. Albert begins to drag. "You go. I'll come on after," he says, and throws himself down. I seize him by the arm and shake him. "Up, Albert. If once you lie down, you'll never get any farther. Quick, I'll hold you up." At last, we reach a small dugout. Krop pitches in and I bandage him up. The shot is just a little above his knee. Then I take a look at myself. My trousers are bloody and my arm, too. Albert binds up my wounds with his field dressing. Already he is no longer able to move his leg, and we both wonder how we managed to get this far. Fear alone made it possible. We should have run even if our feet had been shot off. We would have run on the stumps. I can still crawl a little. I call out to a passing ambulance wagon which picks us up. It is full of wounded. There is an army medical lance corporal with it who sticks an anti-tetanus needle into our chests. At the dressing station we arrange matters so that we lie side by side. They give us a thin soup which we spoon down greedily and scornfully, because we are accustomed to better times but are hungry all the same. "Now for home, Albert," I say. "Let's hope so," he replies. "I only wish I knew what I've got." The pain increases. The bandages burn like fire. We drink and drink, one glass of water after another. "How far above the knee am I hit?" asks Krop. "At least 4 inches, Albert," I answer. "Actually, it is perhaps 1. "I've made up my mind," he says after a while. "If they take off my leg, I'll put an end to it. I won't go through life as a cripple." So we lie there with our thoughts and wait. In the evening, we are hauled onto the chopping block. I am frightened and think quickly what I ought to do, for everyone knows that the surgeons in the dressing stations amputate on the slightest provocation, under the great business that is much simpler than complicated patching. I think of Erich. Whatever happens, I will not let them chloroform me, even if I have to crack a couple of their skulls. It is all right. The surgeon pokes around in the wound, and a blackness comes before my eyes. Don't carry on so, he says gruffly, and hacks away. The instruments gleam in the bright light like marvelous animals. The pain is insufferable. 2 orderlies hold my arms fast, but I break loose with one of them and try to crash into the surgeon's spectacles just as he notices and springs back. "Chloroform the scoundrel!" he roars madly. Then I become quiet. "Pardon me, Herr Doctor, I will keep still, but do not chloroform me." "Well now," he cackles, and takes up his instrument again. He is a fair fellow, not more than 30 years old, with scars and disgusting gold spectacles. Now I see that he is tormenting me. He is merely raking about in the wound and looking up surreptitiously at me over his glasses. My hands squeeze around the grips. I'll kick the bucket before he will get a squeak out of me. He has fished out a piece of shell and tosses it to me. Apparently he is pleased at my self-control, for he now sets my leg carefully in splints and says, "Tomorrow you'll be off home." Then I am put in plaster. When I am back again with Krop, I tell him that apparently a hospital train comes in tomorrow morning. "We must work the Army Medical Sergeant Major so that we can keep together, Albert." I manage to slip the Sergeant Major 2 of my cigars with belly bands and then tip the word to him. He smells the cigars and says, "Have you got any more of them?" "Another good handful," I say, "and my comrade," I point to Krop, "he has some as well. We might possibly be glad to hand them to you out of the window of the hospital train in the morning." He understands, of course, smells them once again and says, "Done." We cannot get a minute's sleep all night. 7 fellows died in our ward. One of them sings hymns in a high, cracked tenor before he begins to gurgle. Another has crept out of his bed to the window. He lies in front of it as though he wants to look out for the last time. Our stretchers stand on the platform. We wait for the train. It rains, and the station has no roof. Our blankets are thin. We have waited already 2 hours. The sergeant major looks after us like a mother. Although I feel pretty bad, I do not let our scheme out of my mind. Casually, I let him see the packet and give him 1 cigar in advance. In exchange, the sergeant major covers us over with a waterproof sheet. "Albert, old man," I suddenly bethink myself. "Our 4-poster and the cat. And the club chairs," he adds. "Yes, the club chairs with red plush. In the evening, we used to sit in them like lords, and intended later on to let them out by the hour. 1 cigarette per hour. It might have turned into a regular business, a real good living. And our bags of grub too, Albert. We grow melancholy. We might have made some use of the things. If only the train left 1 day later, Cat would be sure to find us and bring us the stuff. What damned hard luck. In our bellies there is gruel, mean hospital stuff, and in our bags roast pork. But we are so weak that we cannot work up any more excitement about it. The stretchers are sopping wet by the time the train arrives in the morning. The sergeant major sees to it that we are put in the same car. There is a crowd of Red Cross nurses. Krop is stowed in below. I am lifted up and told to get into the bed above him. "Good God!" I exclaim suddenly. "What is it?" asks the sister. I cast a glance at the bed. It is covered with clean, snow-white linen that even has got the marks of the iron still on it, and my shirt has gone 6 weeks without being washed and is terribly muddy. "Can't you get in by yourself?" asks the sister gently. "Why, yes," I say in a sweat. "But take off the bed cover first." "What for?" I feel like a pig. "Must I get in there?" "It will get—" I hesitate. "A little bit dirty," she suggests helpfully. "That doesn't matter. We will wash it again afterwards." "No, no, not that," I say excitedly. I am not equal to such overwhelming refinement. "When you have been lying out there in the trenches, surely we can wash a sheet," she goes on. I look at her. She is young and crisp, spotless and neat, like everything here. A man cannot realize that it isn't for officers only, and feels himself strange, and in some way even alarmed. All the same, the woman is a tormentor. She's going to force me to say it. "It is only—" I try again. Surely she must know what I mean. "What is it then?" "Because of the lice," I bawl out at last. She laughs. "Well, they must have a good day for once, too." Now I don't care any more. I scramble into bed and pull up the covers. A hand gropes over the bed cover. The sergeant major. He goes off with the cigars. An hour later, we notice we are moving. This concludes the 13th part of 16 total of All Quiet on the Western Front by E.M. Remarque, produced by Best Audiobooks for free.